I guess welcome to Restaking Show. Today we have Zeru Network or Zeru Finance joining us. Zeru is an on-chain reputation network that computes a Z-score, which other protocols can then use to define rules and policies for accepting or denying user transactions on-chain. And joining us is Ashu, the co-founder and CEO of Zeru Finance. And
Right.
Ashu, I think we can get right into the beginning, right? Let's actually begin with your background. Can you give us a little bit introduction about yourself and what really inspired you to found Zero?
Cool. So basically, I'm an engineer by education. So I went to Anna University, but this was way back in 2005. So I started my career with HP as a software developer. But then I went on to do my postgraduate program in management from the Indian Institute of Management in Mumbai. After that, I mean, I did a variety of stints in FMCG, steel, shipping, retail, real estate. So I have almost worked for 15, 16 years in Web 2, and managing pretty significantly large businesses before coming into crypto. Now, my crypto journey started in 2016 or 2017 as a retail investor. Uh, in 2020, I think I moved full time into crypto. So I joined the founding team at Polytrade, so which was an RWA protocol. Before RWA was actually RWA. So we were trying to do invoice factoring or bill discounting, through crypto lending pools. After that, I did a couple of gigs as chief of growth. For with a couple of layer one protocols. So one was a substrate based layer one, and then there was an interoperability layer one called router. But after that, I said that okay, I need to do something of my own. So I started off an accelerator called Brandzand. But in the process, I realized that okay, we also need to build something which impacts society and which keeps blockchain and crypto relevant in the larger in the societies that we are a part of. So yeah, that is how Zeru happened. And reputation has been for people who have worked long enough in web 2, we know how important reputation is. And I mean, obviously we will speak more about this, but idea was to uh, build a universal reputation layer which could enable a variety of use cases, and that is how Zeru happened. So we started off with an empirical formula. We built a money market on top of that reputation layer, and then we said that okay, probably a neural network is a better way of solving it. Then we started using building a behavior centric neural network for reputation. And then the eigen avs happened because for reputation to be truly decentralized, we either had to build a blockchain and a validator network of our own, or utilize something which has been built exactly for this purpose. I mean, more on that later, but this is broadly my journey, right? And in between, I have had stints in academia as well as a professor in business with one of the business schools in this region. uh, so yeah, pretty much multiple industries, long years of experience in web 2, and here for the tech. Obviously, love blockchain and the promise that it holds for the future of the world. So yeah, that is me, that's my journey.
Yeah. I want to specifically dive a little bit deeper into sort of the importance of credentials, especially for you, right? I catched uh, this one phrase that you mentioned that everyone knows credential is important, and obviously we've been hearing a lot of the chat about credentials and say KYC or KYB in the traditional finance realm, where say parties like Stripe, right, the payment API provider, they have been consistently mentioning that credentials or reputations are actually the most key area of Stripe. as of today, right? But credential, on the other hand, has also been very almost like a taboo in crypto as well, right? We've seen a lot of uh, decentralized credential startups that have failed, maybe in the past 5 years, and then pivoted. And we've also seen a lot of sort of quote unquote KYC or KYB providers that are centralized, specifically catering to a the Web3 companies or Web3 protocols.
Mm.
What is sort of your take on uh, what is your thoughts on credential and why it matters specifically for Zero and for you?
Cool. So, I mean, I have seen the importance of reputation, in my 15, 16 years of working career, right? So, in the luxury goods industry, in luxury retail, counterfeits were always a threat, always a problem eating into market share. And in e-commerce, in supply chain, the source of origin is always a challenge, right? So reputation is important in various forms, not just identity KYC aspect, right? So now, if you look at reputation in a holistic manner, our vision for reputation, it is derived from five key paradigms, right? So the first paradigm is financial reputation, right? What is your financial health, or what is the financial health of the entity? Now, where do you get this financial reputation from? You get it from credit scores or bank account details or asset ownership, etc. Then you have the second paradigm, which is the societal paradigm, right? So which means, what is the society's perception of the individual or entity, and what are the sources that define that? These could be platform specific ratings. For example, these could be Uber ratings or Airbnb ratings, or your social media fanfare following, engagement rates, etc., right? Then you have the third paradigm, which is identity, which you mentioned, KYC, KYB, decentralized identification. So which is essentially proof of existence, proof of humanity. And you're right. So this specific area has seen a lot of investments in crypto, and a lot of attempts. Some are doing well, some not so. But yeah, you have folks like WorldCoin, and you have I think Holonym, and I think Self Protocol trying to solve biometric passports at some level. Then you have the professional paradigm, right? So, what is your academic and employment track record? And it could have a professional reputation, can also apply to supplier ratings, vendor ratings, and sources typically for this are LinkedIn, Amazon ratings, Alibaba ratings, or Trustpilot ratings, right? And then you have what we call on-chain reputation, right? Reputation which is derived from on-chain activities and behavior. Now, right now, it might be a very small category, because I think DeFi itself is like a 40 billion category, and crypto overall has a market cap of around $2 trillion, right? But in within the next decade or so, we are going to see a lot more businesses migrate completely to blockchains, use decentralized ledgers much more, once the source of origin issues are sorted, the final moment of truth or the touch point. So we will see a lot of businesses, and if, even we will have institutions coming on chain as well. So the ability to draw inferences from on-chain activities and behavior will become very important, which is the fifth paradigm, right? Now, at Zero, we have approached it, because we are a crypto native firm. We said that, okay, we need to solve for the on chain activities and behavior first. So we started scoring data. We started looking at data from various sources, right? We looked at lending protocols, we looked at dexes, perps, staking, restaking, and then we started labeling them and clustering them, and feed it to a neural network to derive scores. Now, similarly, for the financial paradigm, for now, we have used ZKTLS to bring in credit scores from the real world into the blockchain. Again, for the identity primitive, we'll probably work with a provider to start with. But eventually, what will happen is we will be addressing all these five paradigms from first principles. Now, One classic example is employment verification. Right now, of course, if you're applying for a job interview, you'll probably send your CV. If your CV is shortlisted, you will have a couple of rounds of interviews or selection process or whatever. But before join the organization, accept the offer letter, and join the organization, all of these Fortune 500 large companies, they have something called a background verification process. Now, this is typically done by third parties, and this is an expensive, manual, slow process. Right. So it is not your CV or academic certificate, or track record that is determining the last mile. The last mile is always, hey, what does Ethan have to say about Liam? And that becomes the determinant on should I go ahead with Liam as the candidate. And if Ethan says, I mean, irrespective of whether you're a Harvard pass out or so to have claimed to have graduated from Harvard and worked at some glittering organization, if Ethan is the person who is doing your background check and vouching for you, if he says that, hey, but good, but ABC, then the hiring decision is paused. So what we realized is reputation eventually in its last mile comes down to peer-to-peer or a human verification layer. And this is what I call solving for reputation from first principles, and that is exactly what we want to do. And obviously eigenlayer makes it possible because we can score data through APIs, we can build agents to score data from multiple sources. We get the entity to self attest the data. Okay, this is true to the best of my information. If any of it is found to be false, then my reputation can be irrevocably slashed, and then it is put up for validation. Right. Okay, so this particular entity or this particular candidate has put up XYZ data for validation, and then there is a network, which so obviously here the success boils down to hiring the right validator network. Right. So for example, if you claim to be an alumnus of Harvard, then I should have 200 people from Harvard who have been recruited as the verifier or validator network. Similarly, if I'm doing employment verification for Google, then or TCS or Infosys or Wipro, I should have that critical mass of validations. And then, of course, reputation is community driven, so where people attest each other, and then your collective reputation grows. Now, is a this is the best decentralized solution to things like employment verification, vendor ratings, supplier ratings, right? And these are the kind of first principles that we want to focus on Zero. So sorry, it was a bit of a longish answer, but to summarize it, there are 5 different paradigms that we look at for reputation, and ideally each of these paradigms have to be approached from first principles. But it is one step at a time, always, and that's our vision, our goal, mission at Zero.
Yeah, so I specifically are very interested in two aspects that you sort of explained, Ashu, which is number one is the neural network you're using. Certainly, I think in the paradigms that you have mentioned, right, finance, society, identity, professional, and on-chain, there's seems to be a sea of data that's available, certainly, and specifically, we've chatted with ZKTI as provider such as opacity. And what they can do is then provide literally an overwhelming amount of data, right? Connecting Uber, connecting your finance institutions, and so on and so forth, and potentially plug those data into services like Zero, right? And my number one question is then, what is the current neural network involvement in Zero right now, and how does it help creating this, in my understanding, an architecture or a standard for a scoring, right? Because eventually, what Zero outputs, I would imagine, is a score. In fact, on a very sort of objective scale, defined by Zero itself. So how can you explain to us how the involvement of AI in Zero and how you guys are thinking about its future involvement, sort of in the progression of integrating more and more data into the system?
So first, I'll talk about what is live right now on mainnet, right? And then we will go into what is the future vision and how we imagine things to happen. So right now, what is live is in crypto reputation. So, for example, if you have transacted on Aave, if you have provided liquidity on Uniswap, and if your number of liquidations is relatively low, and if you have repaid your loans on time, then you are likely to have a very high liquidation. Sorry, very high reputation score, right? So that is your Z score from an on-chain perspective. So now, what the neural network does here is essentially draw inferences from behavior, right? So obviously time period plays a very important role in calculations, so that it is Sybil resistant, and you don't have 10,000 borrows and repays within 1 minute. So all of those are obviously taken out of the equation. So that is the current role of the neural network. So we are getting a cluster validity score of around 0.625, which is in academia we accept 0.51 as a valid clustering score, but we are getting like 0.625, which is pretty good. So now think of Z score as not just one composite, but as a complex Myers-Briggs type indicator. Right now, what does MBTI tell you? It tells you that, okay, there are 16 different personality shades, and which of what is dominant in a personality, right? So in psychometrics, etc., that is exactly, you get ENTJ, INTJ, STJI, etc. So think of this as a complex Myers-Briggs score. So while you will have one universal Z score, one objective Z score, but you will also have factors like risk propensity. So for example, based on the leverage that you tend to take on perps, that I can classify you as that, okay, this is a guy who either has very high conviction or is a high risk player. Similarly, based on your DAO voting pattern, I can say that, okay, this person is reasonably loyal to the organizations that he is a part of, depending on your employment history. So I can draw several such inferences. Now, not all of them will obviously get captured into one objective score, because that is not possible, right? So whatever can be quantified, whatever can be objectively quantified, will be quantified as a Z score. But then you will have various attributes of reputation, and depending on the use case, right? So this reputation is not and should not be one size fits all. So depending on the use case that you're solving for, you will then make API calls and provide APIs to that particular business for that particular applications, what might be relevant for them. So for example, Dex might not care so much about what your behavior or what your score derived from lending protocols has been. Similarly, in a supply chain context, people might not care about the education or academic qualification of the vendor. What matters is, has he been delivering high quality on time at a reasonable cost. So that is how. So it is not one universal score that you will get. Yes, we will try to quantify it, so whatever can be represented in a single score, we will. But you will likely have a spectrum of attributes and parameters which will be represented in your reputation passport or reputation badge, or however you want to call it. We want to kind of issue dynamic NFTs for reputation, and that way an entity or a user can take ownership of their reputation, and then we will give APIs on the B2B side of things.
Perfect. And I can't help but notice, obviously Z score is the very sort of fundamental concept in statistics, where you have your mean measurement of a sample, right? And the Z score basically indicates how far away you're from the mean. So it sounds like, actually, are you guys actually collecting uh, a sample of, say, every single, or essentially my question is, are you comparing a user from other users, or it's kind of like simply based on each user instances that that their data and feeds into the model and then kind of gets a output. Are you comparing the users at all?
It is yeah, it is actually quite similar to the ELO rating system in chess.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that is exactly how it works. So there is, technically a score can go to a max of 3,000, 3,200, for example, but likely that for humans it will be around 2,800, 2,850, 2,870, right? So it's exactly how an ELO system would work. So which is a mix of both absolute and relative comparisons.
Yeah, and let's revert back and um, I wanna switch the stage maybe to Ethan a little bit, and since I've already asked a lot of questions, Ethan, do you have any uh, things you want to discuss with?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the in-depth overview of what you guys are building. Um, I'm a DeFi guy. I've been in the space for a little bit, and over the years, I've seen maybe I can say like honestly like 50 plus different implementations of on-chain credit, maybe 100 plus credit plus like on-chain credentials protocols. Um, and the idea is always alluring, but from like a go-to-market perspective, the bottleneck is always um, it's a B2B to C business. So you're providing a service that's integrated by other protocols to, in the end, provide net new value for the end user. But the bottleneck always seems to be protocols integrating credit score and like offering their users different kind of features depending on their credit score. Whether this be in DeFi or like different kind of on-chain credentials. So I know you guys are working hard for like integrations into, for example, lending markets, but broadly, how do you see like why will Zscore be the one to um, overcome the historical challenges in like on-chain credit score adoption?
See, most of the previous attempts, right, whether it is Cred, Spectral, Rossify, Degen Score, was a hit for a bit. And now you have Andre Cronje who has made an attempt through Blockchain Bureau, right? See, most of these algorithms have been opaque, or they have not been able to take behavior into consideration, right? So for example, Degen Score would take the transaction size and wallet balance into consideration now, which exposes it to being gamed, right? So this is the first truly decentralized, verifiable, and behavior centric model. And we have ran Z scores on Aave liquidation data, and the correlation to a certain range of Z score is very, very high for the liquidations that happen. So we published a case study on the 3rd of February when there was a lot of liquidations on Aave, right? So we can say that the Z-score is a very, very good alibi for creditworthiness on chain. Now, obviously, there are protocols like 3chain who would want multiple parameters, right? So they might want to use the score from Blockchain Bureau, from Z-score, and several other real-world parameters. Similarly, DEX might want to know the risk propensity of a person and offer them dynamic or variable swap fees. And then there are applications of reputation in gaming context, and then DAO voting, DAO governance. That is quite significant as well. Now, because we are approaching it from a holistic first principles, behavior centric manner, nobody has used this kind of an algorithm so far in crypto, to the best of my knowledge. So that is why we feel that our approach is differentiated. Of course, we'll continue to work hard, get even the consumers excited, and participate in the reputation process. I mean, in V2 there are a lot of things which have been planned, so we are actually planning to have a complete agentic ecosystem where there are agents for specific purposes, and people can actually punt on the agents based on their thesis. So now, Ethan, if you feel that behavior on lending protocol is the most important determinant for reputation, and if I come up with a counter thesis that, okay, no, staking or restaking behavior or DAO voting is most important for reputation, so I can punt on agents which are scoring reputation from based on DAO governance pattern. You can punt on the agent which scores reputation from lending protocol, and then after 90 days or a certain cooling window, we will know who has been closer, and then there is a bounty which the winning agent takes home. Now think of these like horses in a race course, right? So we have all such gamifications planned, and of course for a peer-to-peer reputation in a real world context, right? See, again, we are not restricting ourselves as a credit scoring for web3 or reputation for web3. We are not saying that okay, we are on chain reputation. We are saying we are universal reputation on chain. So which means we are trying to bring in reputation, and so which is again going to be very important, right? So if you see, I believe that we are in that cusp, right? So if you see prominent phases in humanity or human history. So you had radio communication coming in, which was a big disruptor during World War II. Then you had television. Then you had mainframes coming in. Then you had personal computer revolution. Then you had mobile revolution, which happened in the late 90s, early 2000, right? So right now, the rate at which the change is happening, and the disruption is happening on the AI side, it is way too wide and way too deep. So we are at that cusp where for the first time we might have uh, more intelligent species than us, outnumbering us in intellect, outnumbering us in numbers, ability to coordinate. So we will have to find out a way, how do we co-live and thrive in this world of agents. So
Yeah,
that is where peer-to-peer communication, coordination, and ability to collectively agree or disagree on things will become very, very important. So and
makes sense.
eigenlayer makes it very easy. I love what they say, right? Eigenlayer is humanity's coordination layer. And I mean, and Ethereum is the only blockchain that can probably not be killed, right? uh, Irrespective of I mean, of course there is Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is not programmable. But
For sure.
immutability of Ethereum, it has to be utilized somewhere. And I think the best place to one of the best use cases is reputation, because once you say that reputation is like karma, like you can improve your karma but you cannot undo your past.
Previous.
So
Yeah,
now once you start putting reputation from various paradigms, various sources on chain, I think we are onto something, and this is something that is really, really essential. Obviously we will tackle it one use case at a time and not spread ourselves too wide. So for example, we might focus on under collateralized lending, employment verification, or lending borrowing as some of the initial use cases, and do it really well successfully for one or two protocols in each of these categories, and then take it from there. Of course,
yeah,
we have our own B2C side of things where we want the community to care and participate in reputation. So I think that is how
it
that
makes
would be
sense.
the secret to success. I mean, there is no other shortcut.
Yeah, it makes sense. No, I agree that there's a huge need, and it seems like you guys are having a really sophisticated technical approach. And then the point of my question, I guess, was to hammer home the point that like often tech is not enough, right? It needs to be um, there needs to be like there's a go-to-market game that is being played, and it seems like you guys are thinking about it well. But um, just having like the best back-tested score, as I said, maybe it's not enough, but it's about somehow convincing lending protocols that their users would spend more money in the lending protocol if you have integrated this kind of feature. And there's a BD game there, and there's also like a B2C gamification game, which I think the agent game is very fun. It proves like the score functionality to the end user in a way that's like veiled behind some sort of like gambling. So it's like it seems cool. Um, anyways, I wanna move on. I'll ask like some rapid fire questions about the business side of your guys' AVS setup. Like we are doing this is the Restaking Weekly podcast. So if you can like keep the answers short, and I'll just like ask a few questions about the setup of your guys' AVS, then I'll hand it back to Liam. Um, but first, I guess, uh, yeah. So how does Zeru uh, generate revenue? I guess that's the first question.
From B2B mostly, and NFT mints and renewals of these scores.
Got it. And then when you think about setting up your AVS, how do you think about quantifying the amount of security that's needed?
Currently, it is 2.5 bill, but I think we will uh, start with taking the baseline of the TVL impact that we want to achieve and have the economic security. I mean, it is like the bridge safety factor of 10, right? So whenever you're building a bridge, in mechanical engineering or in civil engineering, you take a safety factor of 10. So we should take a safety factor of 10.
Got it. Um, and when you think about slashing, so yeah, how do you think about operator quorums and setting up like slashing parameters?
I think right now we don't have slashing parameters, but eventually, uh, you know, uh, liveness could be one of the easy factors. But I think slashing will be more relevant when we announce the V2 of the model. So once we have the exact specifics, so we can incorporate slashing, and then of course in a context where reputation is crowdsourced, slashing will play a big role.
Cool. And I guess my last question is like uh, I really liked the agent idea you mentioned. You teased for the V2. Is there any other teasers you can give the audience about what's coming in V2? Like, what are you most excited for?
Uh, I think we will see a tokenomics which is very innovative, very different, and we will likely be creating a lot of utility for the eigen and the ETH tokens in in this whole gamification.
I'm excited, sir. Yeah, Liam, I can hand it back to you.
For sure. Yeah, I think my next question really, actually, obviously, you've touched upon it a little bit, but I want to kind of learn a little bit about the timeline of Zero, right? When did you guys first start Zero project, and how long has it sort of taken you to, based on my current understanding, sort of completed the first model, yeah, so far?
So I think Zeru officially started exactly about a year ago. We announced it during Token 2049 Dubai, so which was April. So we are almost at the end of March. So about a year ago is when we started. So in April, I mean, until April, we were kind of toying with the idea of money market, credit back money market, and reputation and a reputation engine as one of the core enablers. But we met Nadir. I think one of our core devs had a chat with Nadir, and that is when we first learned about an ABS. So we started because until that point in time, reputation was an empirical formula. I mean, there were weights which could be adjusted, etc. But then it was as good as our collective intelligence. It was very scientific or behavioral in nature. So from April, we started tinkering, with an AI generated reputation and utilizing behavior centric neural network. So 3 to 4 months were spent on what kind of a behavior centric neural network we should be using. So once we zeroed it down, then it was a lot of data pre-processing, cleaning, and labeling, clustering, because that is very important when it comes to unsupervised learning, right? So because blockchain data can be quite tricky, unsupervised. Unsupervised learning has to be converted into a semi-supervised learning for the model to draw inferences from. So the um, AVS went live on testnet in November, and we went live on mainnet in February. So the AVS part has taken us about 4 to 5 months, and we have been working on the algorithm for little over, I mean, close to a year, you can say.
Perfect. And when did you guys launch the mainnet?
It was on the 21st of February, if I'm not wrong. So
February, roughly a month or so. Congrats. And I mean, have you guys so far got any clients onboarded already, or is it still kind of like in the process?
yeah, so we are in talks with five of them, but we will, soon reveal the names. Right now, we are building out the API layer so that the scores are usable in a meaningful way, and that's the revenue strategy as well. So it's dollars per API call. So yeah. We are working
So
with the first
mhm.
five clients. Yeah.
So essentially, the revenue model is built around sort of these services calling Zero's API,
Yeah.
and you guys are charging based on sort of the API usage. Is that sort of the rough understanding of the
That's the rough
pricing?
understanding. And for use cases like employment verification, it will be dollars per verification. So currently, the standard is $30 to $100 per verification. That is what companies like Google, Wipro, Microsoft they
Mhm.
spend. So if we can bring in advantages of cost and speed there, I think that will be a massive use case, because this verification is usually by two or three people. Now here we will have an entire peer-to-peer network, hundreds of them verifying at much faster and much lower cost.
Absolutely. And I want to sort of bring back to sort of take us to the realm of restaking a little bit. And actually, you specifically mentioned that you guys have discovered eigenlayer, and sort of immediately hits home that you guys should do it, right? What is the thought process of say the before and after of restaking, right? Why restaking matters in Zero's case, and sort of what has been the process of decision making uh, that eventually pushed Zero towards the route of AES instead of building the infrastructure of your own.
Yeah. Okay. So if reputation was something which was under the hood, and if we were focusing on building one specific use case like a credit backed money market, for example, then it would have mattered less on how we approached reputation, right? Because it's our own proprietary app, so we can do whatever system of reputation we are comfortable with. But when you say universal reputation for the community, for the modern society, then that brings in a lot of responsibility onto you. You have to, like you rightly said, you need to have the right mathematics and right technical approach. But B, you should also have a verifiable framework which is sufficiently decentralized, and most importantly, a system that cannot be killed. Right now, what are the options if you want to do something like that? You uh, build your own layer one blockchain, and irrespective of how big you are, how good you are, it is pretty much difficult, or at least will take a long time to achieve the level of decentralization which Ethereum has managed to, right? So that immutability is very important. So uh, between having to build our own network of validators versus using a robust restaking protocol which is available, the choice was pretty much simple, because then we are only focusing on how do we solve for reputation in the most efficient, competent manner possible, and not worrying about the network. Everything else is abstracted away. And obviously the eigenlayer team has been super helpful, and we have been able to inherit the network advantages. So that is, I think, the single most important consideration for us.
Sure, absolutely. And my final question here is sort of taking us to take a look at the future, right? In the idealized world, actually for you guys, for Zero and for yourself, what would be the end game for Zero, right? What is the ultimate goal for Zero to achieve?
I mean, it is karma, right? So reputation is karma. So it has to become universal. It has to be by the people, for the people, and it has to be omnipresent. So we are kind of creating that initial framework, initial approach, but then ideally this should become a way of life and impact multiple industries.
Absolutely. I think that's the perfect place to for us to wrap up today's conversation. Really appreciate your time, Ashu, and I do want to have a chance for you to share any message towards our audiences. Obviously, uh, for people who are listening, you can find Zero on the website is myzscore.ai, ZSCORE.ai. And similarly on X, it is Zero Finance, Zeru Finance. Ashu, how can people get in touch with you guys and other than X or your website? And kind of, are there any last message you wanna share for our
Yeah, I mean,
audience?
we have a community on Discord and Telegram. So, and you know, we are as a team are quite reachable on yeah, yeah, on X, any of the social media platforms. So, yeah, and we will be announcing a lot of interesting things. So, I think 2 weeks ago we published our research paper. From the University of Illinois, we will be coming up with a V2 of our model, and then we will also be publishing a research paper for that. And then we have a pipeline of 4 or 5 initial customers who will go live. So we will be announcing the Z Claim NFTs as well. So yeah, stay tuned, and there's a lot of interesting thing that's happening. But again, as Ethan rightly said, it is B2B2C. So to create value for consumers, we will also need to have B2B partners who are giving the commensurate value back to the consumers.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Ashu, and I really enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully we can have a chat in the near future.
Sure, loved it. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Thank you.